You ever have one of those mornings where you step outside, just looking for a little peace, and before your coffee's even cooled, your life turns into an episode of Who Wants to Steal My Land? Because that's exactly what happened to me. No warning, no knock, just chaos blowing in with the wind. One minute I'm pulling on my boots. Next thing I know, there's Miss Patterson from the HOA yelling at the top of her lungs for the cops to arrest me on my own dirt. Yeah, that happened. Her voice was so sharp it could split wood, and right behind her, three guys in hoodies jump out of the pickup, stomping on my driveway like they own the place, scowling like the world owed them something. And there she is, waving a crumpled notice in the air like she's about to cast a spell. We're here to demolish unauthorized structures if your livestock pens aren't moved by sunset. That tone. God, it was the kind of tone you hear from someone who acts like they bought the sky along with their house. I felt the color drain from my face when one of those guys shoved my kid standing on the porch and started laughing. Let me tell you, nothing gets under my skin faster than someone messing with my family. I just raised my hands, slow and steady, locked eyes with her, and said, "You leave my boy out of this." But she just smirked, full of herself, and hollered, "This community answers to me. Like a committee and a couple signatures could turn a man who built this place with his own hands into some kind of tenant overnight." Those guys, they start snapping photos, pointing at fences, muttering about violations, and threatening to tear down every board, every post, every hour of sweat I'd put in. I'll admit it, I was scared. But not the panic kind. More like the kind that burns in your chest, you know? Fear for my family, for this land my dad left me. Anger for the years of work they were trying to erase in one afternoon. But I wiped the dirt off my boots, stared Miss Patterson straight in the eyes, and said, "You don't get to make my land disappear with lies." I could tell it hit her. Her whole face shifted, pulse jumping at her neck. As they turned to leave, one of the muscle-bound guys spit in the dirt and growled, "This isn't over." I just watched their truck disappear down the drive, heart pounding, knowing how close we'd come to losing everything right there. But you want to hear the best part? That paper Miss Patterson was waving, all dramatic, worthless. She didn't know what I had tucked away in my truck, the one thing she'd never expect. I almost smiled, right there in the gravel, because I'd already started the legal trap that would snap shut on her next move. So I wandered back to my old pickup, acting like I'm just grabbing tools. Instead, I reach in the glove box and pull out a stack of papers, freshly stamped by the county, a brand new survey, my deed, and an affidavit I'd filed months ago after my first fight with the HOA over an old utility easement. I keep my voice even, fold those papers nice and neat, and show them through the window. "Those pins sit on my land," I said. Watching their faces, you could see it, the confidence just drained out of Miss Patterson, like a busted pipe under pressure. And then, just for fun, I tap a little button under my dash. My phone lights up, starts streaming live. No filters, no edits, straight to my lawyer, and to one friend who always shows up when the world gets messy, my old buddy on the sheriff's force. See, I wasn't just some farmer in muddy boots. I was a man who'd spent too many nights poring over land records, learning the laws, every weak spot, and how to shore them up. Now, Miss Patterson, she tries to bluff, rolls her eyes, tries to tear the papers, starts screaming about rules are rules. But here's the thing, the whole thing's on camera now. And there she is, admitting live that she sent these men to make a point. That confession just hangs in the air, thick and electric. Even the guy who shoved my boy turns pale. Miss Patterson's smirk slips. She knows she's in trouble now. I lean out, voice low. "You brought muscle to scare a family. You just handed me proof." My phone pings. A message from my lawyer. "File now." Then my friend the sheriff, his voice comes through the call. "We're coming." You could feel the mood shift, everyone on edge. But before anyone could even take a breath, Miss Patterson snaps. She lunges, yanks my phone from my hand, throws it into the dirt, screen up, streaming. "You think you're clever?" she hisses. "This isn't over till I say it's over." Her guys tense up, itching for fight. My son's still at the porch, clutching our old shepherd by the collar, eyes wide as dinner plates. For a second, I swear I thought they might actually start tearing my fence down with their bare hands. And then, the rumble of a county cruiser coming slow up the road. Sun's glinting off the windshield, dust curling behind the tires. Sheriff Daniels steps out, boots crunching the gravel, hand on his belt. "Morning, folks," he says, giving the whole mess a slow once-over. "Heard about some trespassing and threats out here." His eyes land on me, then the muscle, then the bulldozer parked halfway across my line. I don't say a word, just point at the splintered fence post and that bulldozer like it's Exhibit A. Daniels walks a slow, deliberate circle, boots grinding stone. "Ma'am," he says to Miss Patterson, "you got a demolition permit for this equipment?" She tries to keep it together. Chin up, arms crossed. This land is under HOA jurisdiction. He's violating code, 4A. Daniels just grins, flips open his little notepad. "Funny," he says, "because county records say this parcel's been excluded from the HOA limits for a decade." You could have heard a pin drop. The tough guys all look at each other, completely lost. Miss Patterson's mouth goes dry, mumbling about pending annexation, but Daniels just cuts her off. "Ma'am, you're trespassing. And if you brought these men, that's criminal coercion." She opens her mouth, but I speak up, holding my ground. "Sheriff, my camera was recording till she smashed it. Footage is already backed up to the cloud." And right then, her face goes sheet white. Daniels locks his eyes on her, voice going cold. "Then I suggest you all stay put while we verify." As he radios for backup, Miss Patterson tries one last wild move. She whispers to one of her muscle men, and suddenly the guy bolts for their truck, gravel flying. But Daniels is quicker. One sharp whistle, and his deputy blocks the drive before anyone even gets a hand on a door. Daniels' voice booms out, steady as ever. "Nobody leaves until we get the truth." You could see the fear finally crash down on Miss Patterson, shoulders tight, eyes darting. The tough guys start to crumble, the bravado fading. One of them mumbles, "She told us this was legal," before raising his hands, stepping away. Daniels turns to me. "You got that affidavit handy?" I pass it over. He flips through, nods, then says it loud and clear for the whole world to hear. "This man owns every inch of this ground. You, ma'am, have no authority here." Miss Patterson's jaw hits the dirt. "That's not possible. I run this HOA," she snaps. Daniels just shakes his head. "Not anymore. County's been investigating your board for months. Fake fines, forged notices. You just handed us the last piece we needed." She tries to argue, but her words just splinter as the cuffs go on. Her men don't fight it. They just go quiet, eyes on the ground. Standing there in that dust, with my son hugging our old dog and the sun dropping behind the barn, I watched the whole HOA nightmare roll away in the back of a cruiser. Sheriff Daniels tips his hat as he walks back over, a half grin under that mustache. "You played it smart, legal, and clean," he says. "Folks like her, they think fear's stronger than the law. You just prove them wrong." I nod, voice quiet. "Just protecting what's mine. This land's been in my family too long to let anybody take it with a pen and a lie." Later, as the news spread, Miss Patterson's name showing up in the county fraud reports, the HOA board dissolved, folks started dropping by the farm. So just shook my hand, some wanted the whole story. They call me the guy who beat the HOA at their own game. Truth is, I didn't fight with fists or fire. I fought with patience, proof, and the one thing she never saw coming, the law. So I stand on my porch, the flag fluttering overhead, and watch the last of the daylight spill across the fields, feeling every bit of freedom you can earn when you stand your ground, legal and proud, on the soil that's yours. My boy looks up and says, "Dad, it's over?" I smile, "Yeah, for us. For them, it's just starting." And I'll tell you something, everyone's got a Miss Patterson somewhere, thinking rules only apply when it benefits them. So let me ask, when the law and fear go head-to-head, what side do you end up on? Drop a comment below. Tell me your take on justice, right versus wrong, or your own battle with power. And if you ever stood your ground against the odds, well, this porch light's always on for a story like that.